Hello. Today we are going to do a topic of speech on child prodigies or child geniuses. The title is How to Not Treat Child Geniuses. In today's speech we are going to talk about a very interesting topic. Imagine being surrounded by a classroom of peers, and now imagine that these peers are all about 10 years older than you as you sit in a university classroom at 12 years of age. Now, this may seem like some movie scene that I'm describing. However, this is the eventual situation that unfolds for many of the most precocious child geniuses. This very general term, as we have mentioned earlier, is used to describe a child prodigy. That is, a child, typically under the age of 10 years old, who is capable of doing one or more tasks at the same technical level as an adult. Now, what is a child prodigy? What is an example? Mozart would be a good example of a child prodigy. Intellectually gifted children seem to not only experience different things in their lives compared to average children, but they seem to progress faster in relation to their mental age compared to their chronological age. Now, the development of a child genius's brain may allow them to perform at an adult level in cognitive tasks, at the same level as an adult. However, there is not sufficient evidence to suggest that the same emotional maturation occurs. There is more evidence to support mental maturation at a higher rate than emotional maturation, largely because this has to do with life experiences that have to be lived over time for people to mature. That is, a child prodigy may be very intelligent, however, he has not lived through what someone that is 20 years old has lived through, and so therefore he has not emotionally developed to the level of a 20-year-old. However, mentally he may be at a cognitive level of a 20-year-old, even if in this example, let's say the kid is 10. Specifically, it is not recommendable to move children of high intellectual ability out of the classroom with similar age peers and then putting them into environments with people that are older. This does not afford these children with the opportunity to develop alongside same age peers and could have negative socio-emotional effects on the children over time. Now, how does this apply to me? I once knew a child who would be considered a child genius. This child had a very poor childhood in my and many other opinions of those who knew him. Me and others who knew him, we had a very similar opinion that he had a bad childhood. I knew him all through growing up in elementary school. He was capable of doing high school level mathematics by the 5th grade. Although he was not separated from the rest of the classroom until the 6th grade when we transitioned into middle school, those couple years were quite bad for him now that I think about it in retrospect. From the 1st grade up until the 5th, he was always treated very differently by the teachers. He often worked alone in separate rooms, had different assignments and different textbooks, and was barely involved in many of the extracurricular activities as the other students. He always seemed to be on a completely different schedule than the rest of his peers. It was almost immediately noticed by me and the rest of the kids after he got picked on several times. Even though he wasn't really bullied, he was completely alienated from the others through the way that the school treated him. And I feel that this child could have had a better experience if the school had handled his ability in a more productive manner. I believe that while he was certainly challenged educationally, which is important, part of the rule that school has is to socialize children. Now think about this. This is definitely true because children typically spend a good part of their day growing up at school, and a school has the job to not only, prepare these children for the future in terms of educational skills, but also really set a good environment for these children to become socialized. So in these instances where schools tend to separate and alienate the gifted, they may be serving the higher ability for educational material, but they are not allowing these kids to just be kids, which is what they are. Putting a 10-year-old kid with a 20-year-old man because they have the same ability in the same classroom does not mean that the 10-year-old has the same maturity as a 20-year-old man. Healthy development must include appropriate benchmarks not only in a mental sense but in an emotional sense at the same time. Because this is the healthy way for a child to generally develop, with simultaneous emotional and benchmarks growing up, schools are fundamental in appropriating gifted students without divergence from other same age peers and doing as little as possible to ostracize them from the school dynamic. I have done some research on this, and most experts believe that the best form of treating gifted students is to involve them with their peers and also simultaneously referring the parents to outside services such as gifted and talented services, or in the case that the former is not financially possible for the parents, to have group work in which the children can function as leaders in the groups. This gives the children an ability to make good use of their higher abilities whilst working in groups, not alienating them or ostracizing them from the regular group dynamic or the rest of the mainstream class. In conclusion, we must make sure to nurture gifted children's higher ability. School institutions should provide these children with a challenging level of work in and out of the classroom so they are not held back from their potential intellectually. However, at the same time, this should not come at the expense of emotional well-being. Just because child prodigies may have the ability of an adult at one or more skills does not mean that they are actually adults. They have not lived through the teenage years, have never driven, do not have the experience of growing up, and are quite simply just children. And first and foremost, that's how they should be treated, as children. Intellectually gifted children seem to not only experience different things compared to average children, but they seem to progress faster in relation to their mental age compared to their chronological age, but do not have the emotional involvement of an adult before reaching adulthood compared to peers. As we adopt and develop new and more satisfying educational pedagogy, we can continue to ensure the best fulfillment of potential for our country's greatest minds.